Disclaimer: this story is a work of fiction inspired by themes of love, relationships, and personal choices. While certain events or emotions may feel relatable, any resemblance to real persons, living or dead, is purely coincidental. The content is intended for mature audiences who enjoy dramatic storytelling, and it does not promote infidelity, betrayal, or unethical behavior. Instead, it explores human emotions, complexities of relationships, and the consequences of our choices. Viewer discretion is advised. Emily never thought life could be both steady and safe at the same time. She had been married to Daniel for 8 years, and in many ways, their life was exactly what she had hoped for when she was younger: warm dinners, shared routines, and a home filled with small laughter. Daniel was dependable, a man of few words but deep reliability. The kind of husband who would never forget to check if the doors were locked at night or to bring home flowers on her birthday. And then there was Ryan, Daniel's best friend since their college years. If Daniel was the quiet, steady type, Ryan was the opposite. He had an easy smile, a natural charm, and a way of making anyone feel like the most important person in the room. Over the years, he had become a fixture in Emily's life. He was there for backyard barbecues, holiday dinners, and even the occasional late-night movie when Daniel was away for work. Ryan and Emily's relationship was always rooted in familiarity and trust. She had never looked at him in any way other than as Daniel's best friend. Until, perhaps, she started noticing little things without meaning to. How his laugh filled the room in a way that felt lighter than Daniel's. How he remembered the exact way she liked her tea, without her ever telling him twice. Still, she pushed those thoughts aside. This was Ryan, her husband's best friend. Anything else was unthinkable. Life rolled on in its predictable rhythm. Daniel would work long hours at his firm, and Ryan would sometimes drop by to help with odd tasks. Fixing a squeaky door, helping carry heavy grocery bags, or simply checking in when he knew Daniel was out of town. Emily never questioned it. That's what friends did. That's what family friends did. But beneath that steady surface, something subtle had begun to shift. An invisible thread being pulled tighter, without either of them fully realizing it. Maybe it was the way their conversations had started lingering just a little longer. Maybe it was the way Ryan's eyes seemed to hold hers for an extra second before he looked away. Emily told herself it was nothing, just her imagination, or perhaps the comfort of long familiarity. Still, somewhere deep inside, a part of her recognized that comfort wasn't always safe. And sometimes, the people we feel most at ease with can be the ones who change everything without even meaning to. It was an ordinary Tuesday evening when Daniel mentioned his upcoming business trip. He'd be gone for the weekend. Emily had no reason to think anything unusual would happen in his absence. But she didn't yet know that this ordinary rhythm, the one she had trusted for so long, was about to break in a way she could never undo. The day Daniel left for his business trip began like any other. He moved around the house in his usual calm, methodical way, checking his suitcase, packing his laptop bag, sipping his morning coffee while scanning through his emails. Emily made breakfast, the kind she knew he liked before a long trip. Scrambled eggs with toast and a small side of fruit. There was comfort in their morning ritual, but also a kind of quiet distance that had been growing between them for months, though neither of them said it aloud. At the door, Daniel kissed her cheek, murmuring a promise to call once he landed. "Take care of yourself," he said, "and call Ryan if you need anything." It wasn't an unusual suggestion. Ryan had always been the one Daniel trusted to look after things when he wasn't around. Whether it was fixing a leaky faucet or just making sure Emily didn't feel too alone in the big house. By late afternoon, Daniel's text arrived. "Landed safely. Meetings start early tomorrow." Emily responded with a heart emoji, then turned her attention to the quiet house. It was strange how still everything felt without him. She put on some music, made herself a cup of tea, and curled up on the couch with a book. That's when her phone buzzed. It was Ryan. "Need any help around the house while Daniel's gone? I'm free tonight." She hesitated for a moment, then replied, "Actually, the back door lock has been sticking. If you have time, maybe you could take a look?" Ryan arrived just before sunset, carrying his usual mix of tools and easy conversation. They started in the kitchen, where he fiddled with the back door lock, chatting about small things, how the weather had been unpredictable lately, how Daniel had mentioned his big meeting, how the local cafe had just changed their coffee beans. It was the kind of harmless, everyday talk they'd always shared. Once the lock was fixed, Emily offered him dinner. She hadn't planned on making anything special, just a simple pasta and salad, but the atmosphere began to feel unusually warm. They laughed over stories from years past, including the time Daniel had accidentally locked himself out of his apartment in the middle of winter, and Ryan had to climb through a frozen window to let him in. As the evening went on, Emily realized that she wasn't checking the time like she normally did when hosting someone. The conversation didn't feel like a polite exchange, it felt easy, intimate even. There was no rush for him to leave, and no reason for her to make him. When Ryan finally stood to go, he paused at the door, glancing toward the darkening sky. "Looks like a storm's rolling in," he said. "If it gets bad tomorrow, maybe I'll swing by and check on you again." Emily smiled, a little too quickly. "Sure, I'd like that." She didn't know it yet, but that casual offer, made under the soft glow of the porch light, was the first small step toward the night that would change everything. The storm came earlier than expected. By late afternoon, the sky had turned a heavy shade of gray, and thick clouds pressed low over the neighborhood. Emily stood at the kitchen window, watching as the first drops of rain splattered against the glass. The forecast had promised light showers, but the wind that whistled through the trees suggested otherwise. She was just putting the kettle on for tea when her phone buzzed. "Ryan, you okay over there? Looks like it's getting bad." Emily typed back quickly. "I'm fine, just making tea." A pause. Then another message from Ryan. "I'm close by. Want me to drop in?" She hesitated. The house was warm, but the sudden darkness outside made it feel strangely big and empty. "Sure," she replied before she could overthink it. By the time Ryan arrived, the rain had turned into a downpour, and a sharp crack of thunder rolled across the sky. He was damp from the short run from his truck to the door, his jacket glistening with droplets. "Smells amazing in here," he said, noticing the faint scent of cinnamon and black tea. Emily handed him a towel and set 2 mugs on the counter. "Just in time," she said, smiling. They settled at the small dining table, the warm lamplight softening the edges of the room. Conversation flowed easily, the storm outside providing a steady rhythm of rain against the windows. At first they talked about harmless things. Movies, travel, the funny quirks of Daniel's college years. But soon their words wandered into more personal territory. Ryan leaned back in his chair, his eyes catching the candlelight. "You ever think about how life turns out? Like, if we'd made different choices?" Emily blinked, caught off guard. "I think about it sometimes," she admitted, her voice quieter now. "But I try not to. What's the point? We can't change the past." He nodded slowly, but his gaze lingered. "Maybe. Or maybe it's about realizing what we still can change." The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. Emily looked away, focusing on the tea swirling in her cup. She could feel her pulse in her fingertips. A sudden flash of lightning lit the room, followed by a loud crack of thunder that made them both flinch. The lights flickered, then went out completely. Emily laughed nervously. "Great, just great." Ryan stood, moving toward the drawer where Daniel kept a lighter and candles. Within minutes, the room was bathed in the gentle glow of candlelight. It made everything feel closer, warmer. They sat back down, but now the silence was different. Not awkward, but charged. Ryan's eyes stayed on her a beat longer than usual, his voice lower when he spoke. Outside, the rain kept falling. Inside, the air felt heavy with something neither of them wanted to name. Emily told herself this was just a storm, but somewhere deep inside, she knew that wasn't the whole truth. The rain outside had settled into a steady rhythm, a low murmur against the windows, as if the world itself had gone quiet just for them. Emily sat with her hands wrapped around her tea mug, though the tea had long gone cold. Ryan leaned forward slightly, elbows on the table, his gaze fixed on her in a way that felt both unfamiliar and impossible to ignore. She tried to break the moment with a small smile. "You're staring," she said lightly. He didn't look away. "I know." His voice was quiet, but there was no hint of embarrassment in it. Only something deeper, something that made her heart stutter. For a long second, neither of them moved. The air between them felt thick, electric. Emily's mind scrambled for something to say, something that would put them back in safe territory. But before she could find the words, Ryan stood and took a slow step toward her. "Emily," he began, but whatever he meant to say never came out fully. She stood too, almost without realizing it, as if some invisible pull had lifted her to her feet. Now they were standing only inches apart, the soft glow of candlelight painting his face in warm golds and shadows. Her breath caught. She could smell the faint scent of rain on his clothes, the clean, woodsy cologne she'd always associated with him. Ryan's eyes searched hers, as though asking a question he couldn't voice. And then, without a warning, without a plan, he leaned in and kissed her. It wasn't a hurried kiss or a clumsy one. It was slow, deliberate, full of all the things they had never said to each other over the years. Emily froze at first, her mind screaming at her to stop, to pull away, to remember who she was and who he was. But there was something in the way he held her face so gently, as though she might disappear if he let go, that made her chest ache. The kiss deepened for a brief moment before reality came crashing back. Emily stepped back quickly, her hand flying to her lips as though to erase the moment. "Ryan, we can't," she began, but her voice faltered. He stepped back too, his breathing uneven. "I know," he said, his voice heavy with regret. "I'm sorry. I couldn't help it." They stood there in silence, the sound of the storm filling the space between them. Emily's thoughts were a whirlwind: shock, guilt, confusion, and something else she was afraid to name. Ryan finally picked up his jacket from the chair. "I should go," he said, not meeting her eyes. She didn't stop him. The door closed behind him with a quiet click, leaving her alone in the candlelit room, her heartbeat loud in her ears. She pressed her fingers to her lips again, as if to convince herself it had really happened. And deep down, she knew nothing would be the same after tonight. The morning after the storm, the world outside looked deceptively normal. Bright sun filtering through the curtains, birdsong in the distance, the scent of wet earth lingering in the air. But for Emily, everything felt different. The memory of Ryan's kiss was still fresh, an unshakable echo in her mind. She moved through her morning routine in a haze. The coffee tasted bitter, the house felt too quiet, and every sound seemed sharper than usual. She tried to lose herself in chores, folding laundry, watering the plants, but her thoughts kept circling back to last night. The way he had looked at her, the warmth of his hands, the guilt that had bloomed almost instantly afterward. Her phone buzzed on the counter. A text from Ryan. "I'm sorry about last night. I crossed a line." She stared at the words, unsure how to respond. A dozen drafts swirled in her mind, some forgiving, some angry, some pretending it had never happened. In the end, she typed, "It's fine. Let's just forget about it." But they both knew it wasn't fine, and forgetting was impossible. The rest of the day passed slowly. She kept expecting another message, but none came. At night, she lay awake next to Daniel's empty side of the bed, her mind replaying the moment in excruciating detail. The softness of his voice, the way the room seemed to disappear around them, and the way her heart had raced, not from shock, but from something far more dangerous. The next day, Ryan did text again. "I won't bother you, but I can't pretend it meant nothing." Emily set her phone down, her pulse quickening. She didn't answer immediately, but the words lingered, whispering to her in the quiet. When Daniel called from his trip that evening, she found herself overcompensating, asking about his meetings, laughing at his dry jokes, telling him she missed him. But underneath it all, there was a thin layer of unease. Every word she spoke felt like a performance, a way to cover the truth. Over the following days, she tried to avoid running into Ryan. She skipped her usual grocery run at the store near his apartment, took different walking routes through the neighborhood, and kept her phone face down to resist checking for new messages. But fate, or perhaps something else, had other plans. On the third day, she spotted him across the street while taking out the trash. He didn't wave, didn't smile, but their eyes met briefly before he turned away. The brief encounter left her breathless, her hands trembling as she went back inside. That night, lying in bed, Emily realized something unsettling. She wasn't just avoiding him out of guilt. She was avoiding him because part of her wanted to see him again, and she was terrified of what that might mean. Dumating ang pinakamainit na gabi sa kasaysayan ng baryo. Ang hanjan ay mabigat, parang puno ng usok at kasinungalingan. Sa gitna ng plaza, nagtapan ang mga tao. Mula sa pinakabatang bata hanggang sa pinakamatandang residente. Hawaking bawat isa ang kanilang sandata. Crus, bawang, at mga patalim na matagal ng inahanda para sa gabangayan. Hindi na kayang itago pa ang kapitan ng totu. Sa bawat balungan at suliap ang takit mula sa mga tao. Ramdam niyang oras na para humarap sa laha. Pero bago pa siya makapagsalita. Biglang may malakas na alingonga mula sa kabilang dulo ang tuli. Isang anggal na parang pinagsamang ayak ang sanggol at alyalong ang aso. Mula sa dilim, lumabas ang aswang. Hindi na nagakubli sa balat ang tao. Malalaki ang kanyang pakpak. Kumikislap ang mata sa pula. At ang bibig ay puno ang matutulis ng jipin na handang lumapa. Ang mga tao'y nagsigawan. Ngunit imbis na umatras, lumapit sila, hawak ang mga pangontra. Sa haraping laha, ay sinapubliko and ay kapitan ang matagal na niyang tinatago. Matagal nang nakapagasundo ang pamilya niya sa aswang upang majing bante, ang tuli kapalit ang katiwasayan ng baryo. Ngunit sa paglapas ng panahon, lamaki ang kasakiman ang nilalang at nagsimulang mambiktima. Ang rebelasyon ay nagjalat ang kaguluan. May mga sumago ang pagshaliksa, may mga umiyak sa takit, at may ilan pang gustong patalsakin ang kapitan sa puesto. Samantala, ang aswang ay tila lalong nagalit sa pagbabaniag. Sumagad ito sa gitna ng tao, mabilis at malakas. Tumalapan ang mga upuan, nagalat ang mga gamit, at ang gabi ay napuno ang sigaw ang takit at hampa ang mga armas. Sa bawat take, ramdam ang panginginjing sa lupa at ang amoy ang dugo sa hanjan. Ngunit sa gitna ang lahaing ito, may isang misteryosong matanda na lumapit. Hawak ang isang lumang karnungang gamit lamang sa pinakamatitinding laban sa mga nilalang ang dilim. Ang oras ang suksyalan ay dumating, at walang makapagsasabi kung sino ang mananalo o kung may makakaligtas para sa pagsabog ang galit, takit, at lihim na matagal ng nakabayan sa lupa ang baryo. Ang muling pagbabalik ang katahimikan sa baryo ay hindi dumating sa isang iglap. Sa kabila ang pagatalo ang aswang, nanatiling sariwa sa alaala ang bawat isa ang takit na dulot nito. Ang tuli, na minsang simbolo ang panganib at misteryo, ay naging simbolo ang kanilang tagumpay at matatag na diwa. Sa tulong ng kapitan, ang tuli ay natapos at binasbasan sa pamamagitan ang isang ingranding pagtitipon na dinalyahan ang laha ang residente, kaya't ang mga dating nagatabili lumabas ang kanilang bahay. Maraming pamilya ang nagsimula muling magtanim sa kanilang bakuran, ang mga tindahan ay muling nagbukas, at ang mga bata ay nakikitang naglalaro malapit sa tuli sa ara. Ngunit kasabay nito, ipinay sa mula sa matatanda hanggang sa mga kapitanong kwento ang laban nila sa aswang. Hindi para lamang takutan, kundi para turuan na ang tapang at pagkakaisa ay pinakamakapangyariang sandata laban sa anumang banta. Bumuo rin ang mga bagong alatuntanan ang baryo, tulad ang pagdareos ang tanang, ara ang pagkakaisa, kung saan sabi-sabi silang magalay, ang panalanjan at magsasagawa ang kasiyahan upang alalahanan ang kanilang pinagdaning laban. Ang dating takit sa gabi ay napalitan ng pagtitipon, kwensyahan, at halakak sa ilalim ang liwanaging buwan. Sa puso ang bawat isa, alam nilang maring bumalik ang panganib anumang oras. Ngunit nayon, handa na sila. Dahil sa laban kontra sa bante na aswang ang tuli, natutunan nilang ang tunay na lakas ang isang baryo ay hindi na susikat sa tiboy ang mga pataroganda ang mga gasali, kundi sa katatagan at pagkakapit bisig ang bawat isa sa gitna ang dilim. Sa kalajitnan in kagubatan. Habang nagalab pa rin ang apoy sa tuli at nagsisagawan ang mga tao. May isa pang mas malalim na eksanang nagaganap. Malayo sa mga mata in karamahan. Si Capitan Hilario, si Mateo, at si Tandang Cornelio ay nakateo sa isang bilog na binuo ng mga nagliliab na sulo. Sa gitna ng bilog ay nakaluhad ang aswang, duguan, humahag, at halatang wala ng lakas upang tamakas. Humakbang si Tandang Cornelio palapit. Hawak ang isang lamang kahan na yari sa matigas na kahoy. Binuksan niya ayan, at lumabas ang isang kakabanganino na parang yusak na may hugis kame. Suminghap ang aswang, tila may kilalang takit sa ananong ayan. Matagal kitang hinintay, mahanang sambit ni Cornelio. Hindi ka lamang bante sa tuli. Ikaw ang pumatay sa asawa ko labing apat na tan na ang nakalipas. Yumalinggonga ang halakaking aswang, mahina ang unit puno ng pangwayam. Hindi lang asawa mo pati ang anak mo, tinikman ko, belong nito, na ikinaputla ni Mateo at Capitan Hilario. Hindi nagaksaya ng sandali si Tandang Cornelio. Inalabas niya ang isang lamang punyal na may yukit ng sinonang dasal sa hawakan. Siniksak niya ayon sa dibdibing aswang, kasabayang pagsambit ng mga salatang matagal ng ipinagbabawal. Pumiglas ang halama, nanginginig, habang untayanting sumisipsip ang punyal ang huling hininganito. Ngunit may kapalit ang ritual, untayanting pamuti ang buhak ni Cornelio, at tamanda pa lalo ang kanyang enio sa loob lamang ng ilang segundo. Pagkatapos ang huling siga ng aswang, bumagsak ito, abio na lang ang iniwan. Nang lumapit si Mateo upang talungan si Cornelio, natagpuan niyang malamig na ito at wala ng buhay. Huling belonging mat and abago tuliyang pumikit. Ang tuli, huwag niyong hayang matapos. May isa pang bante na darating. Napatinjan sina Mateo at Capitan Hilario sa isa't isa. At sa di kalayuan, mula sa dilim ng kagubatan. May pairs ng mga mata na tila nananod sa kanila. 43.